Today is the second Sunday after New Sunday. The Gospel is from the Gospel according to St. John, chapter 21. And we continue on where we left off from last week. You remember last week that the apostles went fishing, and Jesus comes and tells them to cast the net, and they have the food, and then Jesus provides the fish and the bread, and they have breakfast by the sea. And the next few verses are where we're picking up this post-resurrection appearance of Christ appearing to his apostles. And it's a dialogue and a conversation between Christ and Peter. You know, at Pesach, I talked about Judas. And a meditation was about Judas. How Judas took Qurbana. How Judas was there all along. But yet, he wasn't able to have restoration back as part of the apostles. Instead, in his despair, he hung himself. And I think a lot of times we think of who betrayed Christ, or who all betrayed Christ, and the immediate thing we think is Judas. Judas betrayed Christ. Judas was the bad sheep out of the bunch. You know, that's how we look at it. But really, if you think about it, it's not just one person who betrayed Christ. Peter also did as well. And just like with Judas, you know, Satan used his greed, his love of money, to kind of get him to betray Christ. Peter had his issues too. If you look at Peter, and this is from Matthew chapter 26, you know, after the mystical supper, Jesus is speaking to his apostles. And he says, Jesus said to them, "All of you will be made to stumble because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered." In other words, he's telling everybody, all of you are going to be away from me. All of you are going to abandon me, basically. Because when I get betrayed and when I get arrested and all, none of you will be by my side. And then Peter answers and says, "Even if all are made to stumble because of you, I will never be made to stumble." That's what he says. And it's almost, you can see this pride, like, not me. You know, everybody else might abandon you, but not me. I'll be there. I'll be by your side. And that's where Christ says to him, "Assuredly I say to you this night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. And Peter says to him, "Even if I have to die with you, I will not deny you." He was at a place where he wasn't even realizing he was having his own spiritual pride. He thought, I'm not going to ever deny you. And we know the story, right? We know the story that Christ gets arrested, you know, and he's taken away. And then as he's walking out, a servant girl sees him and says, "Aren't you one of his disciples?" And he goes, "No, I'm not." And then another servant comes to him, a servant of the high priest, says, "Weren't you in the garden when with Jesus when the soldiers came?" And he denied him again. And then another time, they ask him, "Didn't I see you with him? Weren't you with him?" And he denies again. And then the rooster crows. And then the rooster crows. And we can understand this even further to say, at this time, he feels like he's away from the apostles. He messed up. He denied Jesus 3 times. And this is an interesting point. And it's from the Gospel of Mark. And I read it during Easter Sunday, but it really struck me then, and I thought I'll bring it up on this Sunday. That when the myrrh-bearing women, the women came to the tomb on the Easter morning to go and anoint the body, right, or to at least be there, and they see the empty tomb, they see the stone rolled away, and they see an angel there, and an angel is the one who tells them the news, and says that he is no longer here. Do not be alarmed. You seek Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He is risen. He's not here. This is the angel talking to the women who came that morning. See the place where they laid him. But go tell his disciples and Peter that he is going before you into Galilee. There you will see him, as he said to you. Go tell his disciples and Peter. In other words, the angel is saying, go and let Peter know as well. Peter may think that he's no longer part of the apostles. He sold them all out, right? He said, I denied you. So the angel is telling to the women, go tell the disciples and Peter that he is going before you in Galilee. And so Peter then, is part of the group, right? He gets put back into the group. And he's there, but there's this thing where he's there, but we haven't addressed, this has happened, right? The betrayal has happened and no one has said anything. You know how sometimes that happens in our lives where we know there's a tense situation and we may be in the same room with this person or the same meeting with this person and it's kind of awkward. It's like no one's talking about what happened and we're not getting a kind of resolution. And so Peter's there, but no one's talking about it, and Christ brings it up. And Christ turns to Peter and says, a simple question, do you love me? Do you love me? And, Peter responds, of course, I love you. And then he says, feed my sheep. And then he says it again, do you love me? Tend my sheep. Do you love me? A third time he asks, do you love me? Lord, you know everything. You know I love you. And he says, feed my sheep. And he talks more about his life. But you can see that Christ is asking him 3 times, do you love me? To restore him. For the 3 times denial, 3 times say you love me. And this is something that we should understand. The importance of this. And I was thinking about this the other day. One thing, Ignatius, the youngest son, what he likes to do is, he's very good about hygiene, like washing his hands and doing things neatly. He seems to care about these things. But one thing he'll do after he washes his hands is he likes to make a lake at the sink. Like he doesn't just wash his hands and go away. He starts blocking the sink, and then he wants to make a pool there and just splash there and do some things, and he gets a little messy. And I think one time, it's a huge mess. I mean, it can be a lot, right? And one time, we got on him, and said, Ignatius, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And then he looks at us and goes, I love you, Mama. I love you, Dada. And it worked, right? Like it stopped. But I think he meant it very, very purely, right? Like it was just, as we were losing our anger, or losing our patience, I love you, and smiles, and it does that. And sometimes I think a little bit of this, right? Like, do you love me? But notice as our kids get older, that's not good enough. And so look what Jesus says. He says, do you love me? Peter says, I do. And he tells them what to do. Feed my sheep. Tend my sheep. Feed my lambs. In other words, take care of my flock. And later on, as our kids get older, even if they tell us we love them, they love us, or if we tell our parents we love them, what will our parents say? Well, if you love me, listen to what I'm saying. Right? It's great that you love me, but if you love me, listen to what I'm saying. Don't just do what you want and say you love me, but listen when I'm saying something. And that's what Christ says. If you love me, obey my commandments. And here, he's telling to Peter, if you love me, as you say you do, feed my sheep, tend my lambs. And that's what we have to understand, right? As we say that we love Christ, we are called to do things for his church. God is not saying, do this all, I need these things. What does he do? He cares about his church. And he cares about the poor and the needy. That's where he identifies himself. That's where he identifies himself. He doesn't say, I need all these things, I need it. He never says. But what does he care about? He cares about all of the church that he died for, that he loves. He cares about those who are without in this earthly life. And he's saying, be my hands and feet there. Feed them, guide them, be with them, care for them. And this is the thing that we have to understand. We are betraying Christ many times in our lives. I would like to say, and I won't speak for all of you, but I'll speak for myself. As much as I say I love Christ, as much as I say I believe in Christ, I'm betraying Christ a lot. I'm betraying Christ a lot. There was an Orthodox priest, who was visiting, who went to a home of a senior priest. And he went to the home, and he was like, looked in the kitchen, and there's a picture of a rooster. And he looked in the living room, and there's a picture of the rooster. And then he even went to the bedrooms, and there were pictures of roosters. And then he went to the bathroom, and there's a picture of the rooster. And he's like, every room in this house, there's a picture of a rooster. Man, this guy really loves roosters. So he goes to the senior priest, and he goes, why do you have a rooster everywhere? Everywhere you go, was that your favorite pet growing up? Like, why do you have a rooster in every room of the house? He goes, to remind me how much I'm denying Christ. It's to remind me how much I'm denying Christ in my life. I don't need to look at Peter. I can just look at my own life and think, as much as I think I do so much for Christ, I'm still denying him many times in my words, in my thoughts, in my actions, right? And so what Peter is telling us, what Christ is telling us is there's a way back. There's always a way back. We don't have to be like Judas and say, oh, it's too much. I'm not amongst the holy church. That's not me. That's what Satan wants to get us at. So basically our whole life in betraying Christ, as we do sometimes, we can decide, am I going to follow the path of Peter, who makes his way back? Or will Satan guide me and lead me towards being Judas? This is the two examples of betrayal, and one is allowing us to be restored. But we have to come to Christ, and we have to listen to him, and he will guide us and mold our hearts. And he gets Peter to the point where he does get to a point where he is giving up his whole life for the church. He gets crucified upside down. That was his martyrdom. They didn't tell him to crucify him upside down. They just were going to kill him and crucify him. And he says, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy to be crucified like my master. Let me kiss his feet and be crucified. You can crucify me, but let me be kissing my master's feet. And that's what we want to grow towards in our love. Not just in words, not just in thoughts, but giving our whole self to Christ. May all glory be to the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, now and always, forever and ever. Amen.